My day off started with the morning news on TV. It again featured photos of 3 women killed this month. All of them were young and beautiful African-American women. They were found in different towns across our county, but they shared one peculiar thing. The necks of all of them were twisted. The police suspected a single perpetrator, a serial killer. I turned down the volume. The pain in my left temple, a harbinger of a migraine, started to form. Suddenly, my cell phone rang. The call was from the hotel where I worked as a maid. Turned out, Gabrielle, my partner, hadn't shown up for work, and I needed to cover her shift right away. There was a highway leading to a major tourist city not far from our town. Every day, hundreds of cars with wealthy folks would pass by. Most of them stopped for the night at the only hotel by the highway, red and black. It had 2 stories, a stone-clad facade, and a small courtyard where well-tended flowers stood out against the garbage bins that nobody cared to hide properly. I ended up here out of desperation. The financial crisis had left half the town out of work. The daycare where I worked as a teacher had shut down. Gabrielle, a vibrant, dark-skinned 35-year-old woman and mother of one of the kids I worked with, invited me to the hotel. She was a single mother, with her own mother helping to raise her daughter. Gabby loved attention. Admirers constantly buzzed around her like flies to a pastry. She felt right at home at the hotel, where she never experienced a shortage of compliments and generous tips from wealthy men. I took a headache pill and headed to work. The first person I encountered in the hotel courtyard was Emile, a 25-year-old gardener and the cousin once removed of the hotel owner, Mr. Fitzer. Everyone else considered him an oddball for his habit of walking barefoot, but I saw him as a shy young man stunted by an overbearing mother. Despite his short stature, he had huge, rough hands. I always wondered how those hands could cultivate such delicate flowers. From time to time, Emile would gift them to Gabby, which drove his mother, Catherine, up the wall. She worked as the hotel administrator, a little over 50, always composed and dressed in a perfectly ironed, austere dress. Catherine was nothing like her cousin, neither in appearance nor temper. Mr. Fitzer enjoyed breaking the rules. Catherine, on the other hand, set them. The mother and her son lived in the hotel. Their rooms were on the first floor, separate from the guest rooms. Catherine greeted me at the reception desk and handed me a set of door cards and a tablet. It displayed information about the rooms, whether they were vacant or occupied, cleaned or not yet. Gabby and I also used it to tick the time when we started and finished cleaning. Catherine had initiated this control system, accusing Gabby of shirking her duties, claiming she flirted with the hotel owner instead of cleaning. The 60-year-old boss was married but had no children. As such, Gabby hoped to become the future Mrs. Fitzer someday. Could Gabrielle be off somewhere having fun with Mr. Fitzer right now? I casually asked Catherine if the boss was around. It turned out he wasn't. His wife had surprised him yesterday afternoon, stopping by the hotel to whisk her husband away for a week's vacation. Where could Gabby have gone then? She would have definitely warned me if she had plans for the day. Could something have happened to her? I tried calling my friend several times, but her cell phone was off. I couldn't help but think of the maniac on the loose. He could be anywhere. After changing into my work clothes, I went up to the second floor and carefully examined the hotel layout on the tablet. The rooms were marked with squares of different colors. The staff rooms, Catherine's and Emile's, were marked white. We never cleaned those. The rest of the 20 rooms were black and red. Or I should say, one was red while all the others were black. Mr. Fitzer once confessed that he had initially planned to make all the rooms black, with black wallpapers and curtains and bedspreads of black velvet. But they ran out of material for one room, so it became red. The tablet showed the room as empty but not cleaned, even though the cleaning start time was indicated as 7 p.m. yesterday. I clicked on the red square. In the window that appeared, the cleaning timer was still counting down. Why hadn't Gabby stopped the timer? Did she forget or did something prevent her from doing it? I pressed the card against the door of the red room. There was a click. The door opened. Inside, it was clean. The only thing that immediately caught my eye was the black velvet bedspread on the bed. It should have been red. And there was a surprisingly strong smell of cleaning agents in the room, as if it hadn't been washed in the evening but the previous night. I opened the window to let in fresh air, but then I noticed a red smear on the frame, as if someone had poorly wiped off paint or something red. I leaned out of the window and looked down. As always, there were the garbage bins down there. They were empty now, which meant the garbage truck had come in the morning and taken the trash away. I felt nauseous. Whether it was from the intensifying headache or a bad premonition, I couldn't tell. Stepping out of the room, I bumped into the occupant of the next-door room, a gray-bearded man in his 40s. He had checked in yesterday and now looked extremely irritated. I apologized for my clumsiness, but he wasn't satisfied. He scolded me for the scandal in the red room that had disturbed his rest after 7 p.m. yesterday. Then he entered his room, slamming the door behind him. So Gabby had argued with someone, but with whom and why? In the evening after work, I went to my partner's home. Her anxious mother opened the door. She invited me in and poured some hot tea with lemon balm. Its fragrance eased my headache. The woman said that Gabrielle still hadn't returned from work. Her 4-year-old daughter, Cecile, ran into the kitchen, climbed onto my lap, and proudly showed me her drawing, explaining, "This is her, this is Mom, and this is the little brother in Mommy's tummy." I looked at Gabby's mother in surprise and she nodded affirmatively. And then she added in a quiet voice that the father was Mr. Fitzer. Yesterday, my friend had been planning to share this news with him. Even at home, I couldn't stop thinking about Gabby. Could her pregnancy have enraged her lover? Suddenly, my cell phone rang. Incredibly, it was Mr. Fitzer. He awkwardly explained that he couldn't reach my friend and asked if I could pass on a message for her. I didn't tell him about Gabby's disappearance, hoping to hear something that would help me reconstruct the previous night's events. Mr. Fitzer asked me to apologize to Gabrielle for leaving with his wife on vacation, instead of staying to celebrate the news she'd told him. He also asked me to assure my friend that although Emile was his heir, Mr. Fitzer's wealth would be sufficient for his own child as well. Well, I did learn something useful before going to sleep. The morning after brought the news on TV again. Glued to the reporters' troubled faces, I listened to their words, and the ground seemed to slip away beneath my feet. Another murdered woman was found at the city dump, an African-American aged between 30 and 35. The police suspected that the killer had dumped the body in one of the street garbage bins, from where it had been taken to the landfill by one of the garbage trucks that collected trash from containers all over the town. Modern garbage trucks are so automated that constant supervision by workers is unnecessary. Therefore, the body was only discovered at the landfill, but not earlier. A preliminary examination showed that the woman's neck had been twisted, so the serial killer had reached our town. Suddenly, a flash of red fabric appeared on the screen. The cloth wrapped the body pulled from the trash by the police. My vision darkened. That rag looked like the bedspread from the red room at our hotel. If the victim from the newscast was Gabby, then she had been murdered there, wrapped in the bedspread and thrown out the window into the bin, from where she ended up in the garbage truck. Therefore, the maniac was someone from the hotel. This guess erased all previous thoughts about Gabby's pregnancy and about who she might have been a problem for. I dialed the police several times, but the call kept dropping. Probably many people were calling the service, wanting to find out who exactly was found at the dump. Wasting no time, I hurried to the hotel to warn Catherine. I met her in the courtyard. The woman was trying to calm her son, who looked terrified, running barefoot around the courtyard, his eyes bulging and groaning. One by one, the guests' cars were leaving the hotel parking lot. The news of the serial killings that had reached our town had spooked everyone. When I entered the empty building, I noticed the door to Emile's room was ajar. I was going to shut it, but I froze in surprise. A significant part of the wall in the room was covered with Gabrielle's photos. Her belongings were scattered on the floor. The old uniform she used to clean in previously. The red lace stockings that had once disappeared from her purse. The scarf she thought she'd lost. Among those things, there were also newspaper clippings about the murdered girls. I called the police again. This time they answered. I told them about Gabby's disappearance, about the red room, the missing bedspread, and what I'd found in Emile's room. Within a few minutes, the police and journalists arrived at the hotel. Both interrogated me for several hours. Did I think Emile was the serial killer? What could have driven him to commit the murder? Could Gabrielle have been his main target while he had just been practicing on the others? I had no answers to any of those questions. Emil was detained. It was shown on all local TV channels, and they edited my interview to make it look as if I was accusing him of all the murders, which made me feel guilty. Despite the obsessive love Emil apparently had for Gabby, he didn't seem dangerous to me. To distract myself, I started cleaning the rooms, beginning with the gray-bearded man's. Inside, there was such chaos as if not a man, but a family of orangutans were staying there. Tidying up, I stumbled upon a carved wooden box and, accidentally pressing something, opened it. It contained women's jewelry. I recognized them. They'd all been in the pre-death photos of the serial killer's victims shown on television. It was reported that the murderer took the jewels, but there was nothing in the box that belonged to Gabrielle, although she always wore a necklace with a locket that held a photo of her daughter. The anxiety triggered a migraine attack. Suddenly, the door opened. The bearded man appeared in the doorway. He scorched me with a predatory look and began to advance. He hurled words full of anger at me. He claimed that I had attributed his great deeds to some gardener. That incompetent fool didn't deserve the fame he had earned. Someone in the hotel, imitating his handwriting, decided to pin the clumsy murder on the bearded man. But it definitely hadn't been that fool. Predators recognize each other, and the gardener wasn't one. When his hands grasped my head, the migraine became unbearable. Darkness enveloped my eyes, and I sank to the ground. When I came to, I didn't see anyone around, so I got up and fled. The second-floor corridor was empty. I ran down the stairs to the first floor and hid behind the reception desk. Catching my breath, I suddenly noticed a locket in the drawer among the office trinkets. Inside was a photo of little Cecile, and it finally dawned on me. If Gabby hadn't been killed by the bearded man or Emil, then the only one who could have done this was Catherine. Gabrielle's baby was a threat to her son. Once born, the baby could have become the sole heir of Mr. Fitzer. I reported all this to the police. My suspicions were confirmed, and Catherine confessed that she had overheard the conversation Gabby and Mr. Fitzer had about the pregnancy. Later, she found her in the red room cleaning and killed her, disguising it as the work of the maniac. The bearded man was also caught. At the trial, he confessed that he hadn't broken my neck because he thought I was already dead. Thus, my migraine saved me. This story revealed a terrifying truth to me. There are always predators around us. They hide in psychopaths who kill for pleasure, and in mothers who protect their children's interests. And if you're not a predator yourself, it's better not to cross their path.